Hello and welcome to a new episode of the BIMvoice podcast. My name is Petru, and today's guest we have the development and VDC manager for Angvik Development, Sindre Gundersen. Welcome, Sindre. How are you
Thank
doing?
you. Thank you. I'm fine. How are
Okay,
you?
I'm fine too. I'm awesome actually. Let's start by presenting yourself a little bit.
Yes, my name is Sindre Gundersen and I'm 37 years old. My education is from the army, actually. I have been to the officer schools and been to the army for 9 years before I went out in the construction business. So my education is engineering within the army. So I have a bachelor's degree there, and then I started as a site manager with a contractor. So I've built the schools and such, but I have all the time gone further. So site manager, then project manager, then the department manager in Kunsto, where I was here in Molde for 5 years. And suddenly it came an opportunity for me to start this company, Angvik Development or Angvik Utvikling, as you see there. So yes, so I've been in the construction business for 9 years. Yes, so that's me.
I understand. Let's go back a little bit to the army time. Did you
Yeah.
work with the construction during this time as well?
Yes, I started with mines. So I was a mine clearer and was working with that. But I wasn't out abroad. I wasn't out in London and Afghanistan or other countries. I was in the region and in Norway. So I was more oriented on the subject, the engineering part. So I was in the school. So I was an instructor there within bridging. So I was the main instructor in temporary bridging in the Norwegian Army. So I worked there for a lot and trained a lot of people in how to construct buildings and bridges
Wow.
and how to calculate those.
That's very particular background, I must confess.
Yeah.
I worked with bridges as well, designing mostly, making drawings, modeling. I did not do any calculations, but yeah, it's. I was involved in some really nice projects. So that's cool. That's cool. So
Yeah,
you were
cool.
building temporary bridges, right?
Yeah,
Like this was the. Okay, I understand. If we go on the other side about Angvik Development, the company you established, what is this company doing? What are you doing through this company?
Yeah, the primary orientation on the Angvik Utvikling or Angvik Development is developing real estate. So I'm a project manager in most of the projects for our real estate company that is Angvik Eiendom or Angvik Property. Those are 1/3 part of my company, so they own 1/3. And also we have an entrepreneur or contractor which Angvik Grytnes, they are called. They are also 1/3 part in my company. So I'm the last 1/3. So I primarily started assisting them in developing a project because my background was in medium-sized projects in a project lead. So I took that background and started helping them in all of the small projects regarding new tenants that were going in and out of the areas, and that's all very small projects. So they needed someone to help them with that. I started with that, and I started also assisting some other builders that needed project assistance. So that was the primary start, but my inner drive has been much more than that because somebody asked me, "Are you going to be a consultant?" And I hated that word because I I want to be a part of the value chain that actually is producing value in the project. So I started with it's not just a consultant and just assisting projects in project management and doing that, but I started implementing other things like VDC, virtual design and construction, like a method, and have been testing a lot with that from our owner's perspective. And that's very interesting, I think, not just BIMing VDC, but actually taking focus on the process and how to create a successful team as a project, and also have clear goals and metrics that you follow. So that was the main thing I've been following, and also I love tech. I love technology. So BIM, started with BIM and doing some scanning from buildings. I've also bought a scanner, a Matterport scanner, so been using that for a year. And from there, I've always wanted more. Then completing this with IoT and testing this out with some algorithms we are using. We are now using Raspberry Pi to insert that as a bridge between HVAC and So you see, it's always just evolving. It's a snowball that's always getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably I'm getting bigger and bigger too.
Let's not jump so fast. You said a lot of interesting things there.
Yeah.
Raspberry Pi. How do you want to use Raspberry Pi for HVAC? What do you want to do exactly with it?
I want to set up a cheap computer that takes the systems on the internet. Many of those systems are on hidden protocols like BACnet, and some of them are, of course, open. But if you just disrupt it and just set in a Raspberry Pi, then you have easy access through the Linux system. So it's much more possible to create what you want yourself, not just have to buy it like an off-the-shelf solution from Johnson Controls or something. I can work with it. I can learn from it. I can get insight. So it's a cheap way to get very much insight, but it's a very hard way, because you have to when you start with Raspberry Pi, you just have to, what's Python? And then you have to, it's a lot.
But what is the purpose? What exactly is the goal with the HVAC system? Like, do you want to have more control on the airflow or something? Or do you have any specific of this, or exactly right now, because of Corona pandemic and such, it might be a very valuable thing to do?
I was in my late years as a contractor and project manager, so I was always frustrated about we as a business that were talking about the customer. We had a wrong thought of a customer. We didn't discuss customer as a word. We were that's the owner, and this was this. Where is the customer? So the customer focus I was trying to implement in my last project. So when the project started, I was doing another switch on it. So I started on the end of the project. So I was focusing on that, and therefore the first thing I was implementing in the project or through the customer was how should this building work, and how should the automation work. In Norwegian, we work with something called ST-anlegg, or BMS, building management system. So, and also was presenting this when I got presented. It was a crap system. Nobody understood it, and it was alarms that was ticking, and you have to mute it. I asked, what was that alarm? I don't know. So it was a lot of noise. that I also felt in other projects, and also in the owner's perspective when we follow the real estate in the project, not in the project, but in the
maintenance phase.
Yeah, maintenance case. Yes. So that was a lot of noise, and therefore I'm seeking an easy KISS solution. Keep it simple, smart, not stupid, but smart. So keep it simple, and therefore I'm looking for the insight that we can manage our buildings smart, not by drowning in data, but through the insight. We're knowing that, yes, this is red, this is green, this is yellow. This means that we have to take action on it, not alarms that just crying woof, woof, woof all the time, and we're muting them. So, but to come there, you have to do a lot of digging and researching through Power BI systems and a lot of experimenting.
So you're using Power BI to visualize and clean the data?
Yeah. It's just a touch point to come through the barriers in the hardware. So I have a system that I can integrate to the internet. So if it's just a system that with a USB port or just an I/O signal that come from the ventilation example, then I can integrate it on that. If you don't use Raspberry Pi, then you haven't got that I/O connection. You have always have to have a USB, or you have to have something that is smarter. And a lot of the systems we have on our buildings aren't the newest ones. So we have to have that flexibility, and therefore Raspberry Pi is beautiful.
I understand. Are you trying to combine all this together? BIM, VDC, IoT in new projects, or are we talking about renovation projects?
In all projects, actually, because I'm in a new project now where we're almost finishing the mobilization phase of the project. That's the first project that we're implementing virtual design and construction as a whole. And in that project, we're implementing it, but we're not making demands like you have to do this and this. We're trying to establish a learning culture in the project that seeks these possibilities. So in regards to the BIM, we're speccing the BIM with the property sets that we can connect to. So it's very easy. We have in that project, we have the focus on the class IFC space, and we're then focusing on to making the geometry of the IFC space and the rooms correct. So we have volumes, we have the static data for the building and the roofs, and then through the GUID, the IFC GUID, we connect it through to the dynamic data, that's the sensor data. So we don't do that in Revit. We're doing it in some other platform like Grafana or something. We're searching for those possibilities to visualize this data. BIM Vision is what's called Autodesk.
Navisworks.
No, the IoT platform for
Forge.
Forge, yes. That's an example for. We haven't tested it, but we're speccing the IFC. We're speccing the methods to be capable of doing this, and possibly and hopefully we come to one case that we can example. And we're not doing this just to have fun. We're doing it to create value. And maybe the most important is to learn and get the insights, because in our industry we haven't talked much about data. So we're talking about the visual geometry in BIM, but we haven't talked about data at all. So that's the drive. So but we're keeping it very small. The risk is very small, and also the value, therefore, is very small. But by creating some enthusiasm and a goal where we're going to reach with this and scale it, therefore people seem to gather around it and join it. So
that's good.
I think we can make it. Yeah,
that's good. You said you don't want to push it too much in people's throats, for example. But do you mean from a perspective of a manager of the project, or a builder, or someone who's building the building?
Pushing. What do you mean by pushing?
Requirements.
Oh yeah, the requirements. Yes, because if you do it as a requirement and do it as a push, you seem to have a perspective that they should have known this. And through my establishment of the insight, which is in our industry, at least here in Molde and our community, so we're not there, and therefore it's not very reasonable to demand it, because we have to evolve together. And therefore it's much more important from my perspective is to create an enthusiasm, not a punish if you don't get that requirement.
I understand.
Yeah.
What is BIM for you? This came like a surprise.
What is BIM? BIM is for me a connection point for everything. Therefore, it's the static data in a building. So we have a lot of dynamic data like weather and traffic and economy and all of those. But the BIM is the snapshot of the static data in a building. So you can visualize it. You can through simulation on it, through fire recommendations and U values or something. So you can use those parameters to simulate the dynamic data. So it's just a connector for me, BIM.
I understand. This is really beautiful put out there. A little bit different than I heard so far. What kind of data you said? You said geometry, forms, and other kind of data. Who is this data important for?
That's the main question, because we have been doing this for a long time in our industry, doing BIM, but we have been creating value for ourselves. We have been creating value for the contractor. We have been creating value for the consultant, but we haven't been creating value for someone else. And therefore, I don't have the answer to that either, because I'm a product of the same system. But I think we have now an innovation project with Innovation Norway that we have been getting some support on. That we are a bunch of companies that are putting our heads together and thinking about how can we create more value from the existing data in buildings, not for ourselves, but for others, the customers, or if the economists in the project or in the maintenance system, or we're trying to, but we have to then extract the data we have, and we have to use mock-ups to visualize it in different kinds of methods, and then we have to empathize with them and test with them. What do you think? If we did this, what? And then we have to start this process. And I think that is where we have to start to answer your question. We have to start with that. We have to be humble. We have to ask much more than we talk, and we have to. Yes, that's our business haven't been doing that for a lot. We have the solution. We are engineers. Ask me a question, I have the answer. So we have to turn around on the question, I think.
Yeah, we must switch our mindset. This was very true what you said there, and it's very painful. Many of our fellows, or maybe of people who will watch this or listen to this, might feel offended by this, but that is very true. At least in Norway, I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe in other parts of the world, BIM is not very known, is not very adapted. There has not been many attempts to do this. But here, it's over 10 years since we are talking about BIM, right? And the result and the adoption rate and how we use it, maybe it might have been expected to be better, right? And you said like other parts, like consultants and builders, did all this from their own interest, right?
Yeah.
BIM cannot work if we not work together, and
No.
if we ignore different parts involved in the process, right? Even if they are doing it this way, like maybe a selfish way, consultants and builders, we cannot say even that these two parts are working well together. There are still lots of conflicts, not sharing information, and lots of misunderstandings, right? So what should we do? How can we get more involved? The most important part, the part that is going to use the project over the longest span of the life cycle of the project, right? The customer, the client. How can we get them more involved in this?
That's the thing I'm working on a lot. And my first challenge was to empathize with the real estate people that are in the market side. I've always been frustrated as a project manager when I've been having meetings with the customer, and I was talking about BIM, and I was talking about all the cool things we were doing, and we were in the concrete phase, and it was big, and we are the people that work in this industry. We love building things, but there's a lot of people that don't love building things. They love other things, and often we see that that people that works on the commercial side of our industry isn't builders. They aren't builders. They are economists. They are worked on the sales side. Those people are often different in interests. So what I've seen is that people that work in sales, they are very oriented around the customer and very oriented around the rendering and the visualization and that part. And if we do the visualization technique, then they hate it. But if we do it in a sexy way, then they will love it. But if you see how we've been doing BIM, if you can say that, we have been doing BIM is in a technical way. We're doing it with a look at the ventilation, and we're doing crash controls, and that was the cool thing. And we have also been doing renderings, but it's been doing very easy, and it has cost a lot. And therefore, I loved last year when Epic Games started with Twinmotion and Unreal Engine in the base, and started with that for free. So I downloaded Twinmotion and started with using it, and there we suddenly had a dynamic environment where people were moving, and I could switch on the sun, and I can turn on the snow, and I can do easy simulations. And when I showed that to the customer, then it suddenly changed. It wasn't, wow, It's incredible what we can do these days, they said, because it wasn't technical. It wasn't Revit, it wasn't Graphisoft, it wasn't Solibri.
It was beautiful. It was
yes,
beautiful.
it was beautiful. People can relate to that context. So and therefore, the main challenge for me now is to get that environment and make those who work in sales comfortable about working in that environment. Because in Twinmotion now, you have to export a BIMmotion file in Exe and an execution file, and it's often 6 or 12 gigabytes, and you have to have it locally on your PC. If I do that for our people, it's too hard.
Yeah.
So I think a stream engine or something that can solve this would have been beautiful. I think when we work on implementing BIM, we have to BIM from the customer side, and if we start with Twinmotion or Lumion or Enscape and using those in our early iterations, we can easily use this in our project and implement BIM also in the maintenance or facility management in the project, because we're always focusing on the BIM.
What you say makes sense. There is only one problem with that. You're investing more in visualization. Like, this is something that customers need, but at the same time, they are the ones that must pay for that. Because this means extra work, right? You need to budget some time to make it nicer, right? So I think this here it's a little bit consultants or builders need to find a way to, like, a very persuasive way to showcase this, like why they need this, because it will help them to understand much better the building and how they can use it, right? But you touched mostly the private part, maybe with selling buildings, and but there are also let's talk a little bit about the public side of things, right? Because there is no focus, like if you take a railroad or a road, right, highway, there is no selling there, so there are not involved sellers in that process, but there is a lot of people from administrative part side, right? And they definitely don't understand that, and we must make it must be smart and must find ways to make it easier for them to understand. I hate to complain, and I'm feeling really confused about this. It's a very tough question, tough situation, because at the same time, it's not only about, yeah, okay, it's nice to understand it, but moreover, then you need, as a client, you need to have some requirements, right? You need to translate that in a form of a contract, and it's so much involved here, and it sounds like very overwhelming. So like you are doing with your company, starting with small steps might be the best way. And one of the ways is to catch their attention. Like, we need to find ways to make the customers interested, to want to listen, to hear more about why do they need BIM, why how they can get better value on the long term, because this is unfortunately another problem.
Of course, but we have to stop saying why you need BIM. We don't talk about BIM. We shouldn't talk about BIM to the customer. We just should visualize it.
Yeah.
Look what's possible. Do you want this or do you want that? We don't talk about BIM. We're just doing it as a tool. We're working with that as a tool, and very interested in how to generically make a level of detail process around the commercial side of rendering. So if you could do an LOD first level in a rendering that's possibly, say, it costs a tenth of or 10% of the total value of a render model. And therefore, you start iterations where you can implement those types of model. I'm working now on a first level in a project where I'm talking to Graphisoft, where we're downloading 1 square kilometer area from Nordkart, or our data source on the context, and then we're pushing this into Revit, and we're making a easy context in Revit, splitting the surfaces and making that so we can render on it and push it easy up into the Twinmotion engine. And there we just put on the easiest level of detail. We implement some cars, some people, we establish the roads, but we do not make any trees or all of those small details which costs a lot of time doing all the details. So we're starting with that. And I said to Graphisoft when we were talking about, I wanted that so easy and so low detail that when you're showing me, I want you to be embarrassed. Because I talked something I've hang up, because Håvard Haukeland from Spacemaker, we had I'm talking to him for 2 years ago. We was lucky to get him up here in Molde on the conference. So when he was finished with the conference, I was driving into the airport, and I asked a little bit about how he worked on the early phase of Spacemaker iterations. And he said, when he was going to the owners or the investors in the project, he sat in the taxi and he said, I was so embarrassed about our idea. I wasn't able to say it and present it, but I had to, because when I said it and I presented it, then suddenly the customer could say, no, it wasn't so. I wanted that. And therefore, it's very important that we make those iterations so small and so low cost that we take it to the customer and say, if you see on this Twinmotion model, what do you miss? What could have been? Because they aren't stupid in the visuals world. They are much more visual than we are as engineers. That's my experience. So therefore, they can say, "Oh, if we could make those, we could put in the golf court, and we could do this and so on." So yeah, I can check out what the costs of that, and then we implement that, and we create more smaller iterations. Then we say, do you want the render model or do you not want the render model? Do you want BIM? Do you want not BIM? So really, yeah, we can't work on yes or no. We are not binary. We have to create those iterations.
Like when you say we, you mean like a total entreprise, like a builder with consultant, or only consultant if needs to do a job for a customer?
I think that's the vision we as an industry. But then you have to ask, what's the business model in those cases? And I see that business model is, for the consultant, this is very challenging, because they earn from the time they put in all of those iterations. But
exactly.
Maybe that's the possibility to change the business model, because if you create those generic platforms or level detail processes, maybe you could take the sum you need for first level, second level, third level. Then it would be easier to say, this costs, the first level costs this, the second level costs this. And then the customer would get a lot more happy, I think, because you see what's coming, not just telling you what you want, and suddenly you're using 100 hours and showing it, and I'm not happy because I hadn't those money. So yeah,
I understand. That's not bad at all. I really like your proposition. And you say you are doing this on some project. You are doing it right now. You're trying to do exactly that. Did you require the the customer's approval, or you just do it just to showcase it, to be sure that you do it your own way?
I get the customer's approval, but then it's more where is my frame? Where can I work? What is it there from there, or is it smaller? So I try to create some windows for myself to work within, and because if I ask what do I have to play on, they say nothing. Of course, because they don't understand what I'm thinking about creating.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm trying. Yeah. Yes, but I'm also very trusty and loyal to the goal that the cost and the risk should be as small as you can in early phase. As a Raspberry Pi, everybody can buy it. It costs 500 crowns here in Norway. Just buy it and start testing. No risk. And if you fail, you could give it to your children, and they can play and learn computing and Python and everything. So it's a low risk. But if you start with now, let's buy a BMS system or building management system, and it costs 200,000 kroner. Of course, the risk is large. You don't start with that. So. Yeah.
Now we have the means, actually. Yeah, that's we live in a great age right now.
Yeah,
with this,
we do that.
All the parts are so cheap if you want to try anything. So yeah, it's really nice. Twinmotion, you said it's Graphisoft who's selling this. You said something about being free. It was free in the start.
Yeah, but I'm working with Graphisoft, not in Twinmotion. Twinmotion is open Epic Games.
Oh, okay.
But the Graphisoft are one of the retailers in Norway in Twinmotion. And the reason I'm working with Graphisoft here is because they seem to me, when I'm sitting in Molde, and I ask here in my environment, do you know about Twinmotion? No, some. It's small. Therefore, I have to seek another pawn and ask others. And I work a lot in LinkedIn to have a control where people have their interests and focus. And therefore, I've noticed that Graphisoft are doing a lot of courses within Twinmotion. And so I'm playing with those to implement and see what they can do. Yeah.
But do you need to pay a license for this software? You just pay the training for the training.
Yeah. Now Twinmotion, I have the free version from last year, but they are updating it very fast. So I think this will be outdated very soon. So I said to them that I'm not interested in either a Twinmotion license or a Graphisoft license. I'm interested in playing in something that Graphisoft would be interested in it because they can push Twinmotion to the consultants and therefore sell licenses and push courses and everything. So I'm trying to go in the back way, back door in a sort of way. So that's because my goal is that I don't want to disrupt anybody in our industry, because if somebody gets an architect or an engineer in Molde goes bankrupt because we disrupted it, it's not good for Molde, because Molde is very small. So I want them to listen. I want them to evolve. I want them because they are my environment. So I want them to be pushed, but I also want them to learn. But if I go to them first and I see, can we do this? I always get the business model in my face. Then I forget, what are you able to pay me? And I say, nothing. You have to learn. I'm not paying you for learning. and then I get a little bit squeezed, and therefore I seek outside and maybe solve it and do it a prototype and showing and say, see what I could. Then they possibly see it, and you see how I work for what that on the region.
Yeah, that's good. Never give up. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
There is another part of the visualization which you did not touch, but is not like if there are going to be customers that after they see the very low level one level detail one, right, they will think maybe you can use that to show it in a VR for your customers when you start selling apartments, or what are you selling there, right? So you can get it to actually use it as a product in with the project, as a part of the project, not just a cost, a extra cost without any reasoning about it, right?
Mm.
I've seen some projects around Oslo where they advertise that you can visit their racks and you can go around in with the Oculus Rift or something similar and see this. So is definitely something to look for. It's a little bit difficult when you like having Oculus Rift or something else is not so affordable for everybody, right? Okay, companies, sure. But maybe, I don't know, if VR is too expensive, maybe AR, right? Augmented reality with your phone or something. I'm sure you can find more use for that. More use that will return the investment. Will not return, but let's say cover the cost, the initial cost, right?
Yeah, but it's challenging because the cost of learning, of testing and implementing it's very hard, because if you have to have people that live for tech. Yes, you have to have people that do this on the weekends or the nights, or they want to play much more.
I understand.
In the start, I think, not in the later on.
You know, to make it more accessible, like this is a shame. Like in the age we live right now, there should be more companies not thinking only about billable hours. How many companies do you know in the building industry that say, okay, every employee here has 2 hours to do whatever they want to learn in those 2 hours?
Yes.
This is, I heard a lot about other tech companies having this. And this, of course, Google has one day, if I'm not mistaken, in some offices and such. That would be big. Like, learning is a big problem in our industry.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem. It's so difficult to get access to learning resources you don't find. You have standards. You need to pay authorized sellers or course holders to train centers, right? Why is that? Try to learn Python. Try see if you of course, if you pay for a resource, you might save some time maybe. But if you choose to invest more time and to learn on yourself, on your own, then you find thousands of courses. If you start with YouTube and there are many others, right? But in our industry, not only software, not only training, it's too much proprietary, our industry. We need more openness. This is why don't we work together? We are wondering why things are not going better. That's why, because we don't share anything.
Yeah, and that's the primary reason why we established Contact Norway, where you have been meeting a lot in the late meetings. It's only because of those things that you said. It was our frustration as few companies. I think it was 4 or 5 companies that were working together in 2 contracts, and I was so frustrated about why don't we learn? Why don't we take some of those things and play with it, like BIM or Trello boards or 360 cameras or all of those? Why don't we? Where do I go to seek those that competence? Nowhere. If you Google YouTube, you get just crap. Now it's better, but 4 years ago you couldn't get anything. I was so YouTubing things and how to build walls and such, and there it was animations where things just fell down from the sky, and it was so not learning. And then we started contact around that, and let's start play. Let's start playing. And the thing I saw when we started with that is the culture. It's the culture that we have to change, and that we want to have a winning culture. We want to have a learning culture. And that's why I love VDC. I don't love VDC because of BIM or the cool name or anything. I love VDC because it's so easy. It implements plus delta in each session. It's about learning. It's about measuring. It's about constantly getting better on what you're doing. It's not about doing BIM or doing parametric design or all those things we see, that drone scanning and so. It's about getting better, and that culture in VDC is what we need in our industry, and that's what also the intention about Contact Norway. So yeah.
What is happening there? What do exactly you do with Contact Norway?
Contact Norway is always evolving. It goes where the possibilities are. So we started Contact Norway as a sharing area, and then we changed it to a pitching area for all of the firms and the companies to get to know each other. Then the Contact Norway, or Contact Molde, as it was called then, we met physically each month. The last Friday each month we had a meeting on 2 hours last Friday. So then we start pitching to each other, and we started to get to know, oh, you were interesting, you were from the public, you were from the software industry, you were we start to see a lot of common grounds. And then we thought about, because we saw a lot of interest in just sharing and just being with that community, but we started, should it just be a meeting area? That's too lame. So we started to think, what can we do this? And therefore I implemented the customer journey, the focus on the customer. Then I took a pitch about Steve Jobs, and everybody have seen that. You have to start with the customer and work backwards to the technology, not solving technology and just trying to fit it in where it should work. So I started with that, and from there just implementing on the customer, and we got 2 customers. That's fylkeskommune in Molde, in Norway, here in the region, Møre og Romsdal fylkeskommune. I challenged them, what are your focus? And their focus are the life cycle costs, not the investment cost. And then suddenly disrupted, because a lot of those who were sitting in that area, they're thinking about the investing cost and how to optimize ourselves. And nobody has any knowledge about the LCC or the life cycle cost. And then we started to work backwards from that and see FTV or documentation in the facility management, and that was very important. And then we thought, how can we improve that and use technology to improve the facility management systems? And therefore we have worked in the last meetings now, when we have doing it in Teams and meeting there, we have work backwards from that and how we can establish a digital value chain where we have a lot more smooth flows and lean in the machine data, because we're doing so much manual operations with PDF and Excel and input, output, everything. Yeah. So that's where we have gone now, but I don't know where we're going. It's evolving all
Okay.
the time.
So you are focusing on how you can use better, how you can maintain better and such. But do you see any focus, like right now, like you said already before, the focus is to build the building and try to fit it there, right? To just in the portfolio of the customer. To get it a step further, right? To have this in mind, like for the customer to require a project
Yes.
to be delivered
Yes.
in a way that is best to maintain and use, right? I think this is the sweet spot where we need to get. That's
I
very
agree.
nice that you say that it's a good start if there is a little bit of focus to try to see what can be optimized on the facility management side. But I'm afraid there are not a lot of companies saying that way. And I think it also depends a lot who you are asking. If you will ask a project director of a company, yeah, he might say that. But if you ask the project leaders, if you ask anybody in a project, they will be focused mostly to build the project, to have it done.
Yeah.
They don't give nothing about, they don't think too much about, they are very pressed about now, right, to make it. But that's wrong, because that's a very small cost. But the cost comes when you maintain the building, of course, or
Yes.
the asset. So that's very interesting. I think there we need to find smarter ways, how to work smarter, to involve and to educate, to help understand better for the customers how they can require better documentation in better formats that can be used easier and more efficient than before when they are going to use the asset, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was an example I took on the last contact was with doors.
Yeah.
And I said that my opinion is that the doors always gets it goes to hell in each project, because it's so many opinions, and it's so many people that have to say something about that door, and all those switches and turnarounds and opinions. When we combine that with our manual way to work with, then you see that it always goes wrong, because we haven't got the system or the culture or something to make that right. So if I'm ordering 1 door or 5 doors or 6 doors, okay, that I can solve because it's not so many. But in all the projects we have worked in, I don't remember that the doors went smooth all the way. That's wrong. We have to do that. Yeah, we have to solve that. And that's not solved. That's not solved about and this and do that. It's solved about how data is flowing through our value chain. That's the only thing we have to solve. And that's have been solved a lot of. We have salmon that's put up in the here without in the fjords, and tomorrow they're in China on a sushi restaurant. That's value chain. They have control of everything. But with doors, oh my God.
This is so funny to hear. I never worked as a project manager, so I don't know what is this. But sounds very basic. And if you say that it's so important, like it's still so difficult to have control on this. So then we are really in a very dire situation.
And when I pitched that on the last contact, I saw all the people just nodding. I asked one of them, Robert in Skanska, Sweden, just to come in, and it was it was agreeing on everything, and all the people when we were finished, they came on up to me and said, "The door thing."
Oh my God.
So I think we have to solve that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we can summarize about what are the next steps, what everybody in our industry, right? What everybody working in our industry can do, or should do, or what 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 they need to do in order to get us to a more efficient industry, and to get us to the next level.
My tip is, and it's a very easy tip, but it starts with being a bit humble, and that is you have to establish a learning culture everywhere you are. If it's in contact, if it's a project, if it's on the ground, or if it's you have to start learning. And by starting learning, you have to do one thing, and then that is start to evaluate everything you do, not in metrics like KPIs or those economy thing, evaluating in a playful way. And then plus delta is a very easy method. If you have a meeting, use 1 minute in the end and start. What was positive about today? What do we have to improve in the next meeting? And if you always start by asking that question, people are, I can mean something, I can say something. And also you're challenging people are leading those. They're, okay, I have to listen what the others say. And then you start to have some learning culture in the project. And somebody can't do this either way. But if you do this, and I think it starts with the owners in the project that has to implement that in all the projects that are pushing in. That we have a KPI in our project and all the projects that we do. That you have to have a learning area and a learning project, and therefore every meetings should be evaluated. That's an easy VDC metric that everybody could implement, and set that target to 90% or something, and just see how it evolves. I think that's a very good and easy and concrete start to implement. But then people should, I have a Raspberry Pi, can do this and this, and then people are changing the mindsets. That's the important thing, not BIM here or DIT and there. I think that's the key point. So yeah, that's my vision.
Yeah, that sounds really good. During your experience, did you have any experience with the contracts? Do you have any take on this? Could we use? Are there any better forms or contracts we might use?
I've been checking out a lot of some collaborative contracts regarding integrated project delivery. It's in the States, those kinds of contracts. But the vision about those contracts is that you establish a common incentive and ownership about the risk and the possibilities. So it's not only the contractor that owns the risk and the possibility and the incentive to do something about it. And you establish a sort of ownership in the owner model, that not only the owner of the project or the contractor, but also the consultants own some part of the risk and possibility budget. Then you get some incentives about that. But I don't think the contracts is the way to solve it, because we have to have the culture and the environment to put it in. And therefore we have some spill centerpiece we have in Norway. It's still a price bid build, that design bid build contract. So I think that the culture needs to get some learning and do this, and then they have the business models are changing a lot, and then I think the contracts should
Will
evolve.
follow.
Yeah, the contracts are working very well in the VDC projects as they are, but if you try to establish a collaborative contract or a collaborative environment with a leadership that is not collaborative, that we often see in the earlier contracts, like a matriarch that's trying to split and conquer, then you see it always will fail. A collaborative contract will fail because it's not a leadership that's integrating people, integrating organizations, and integrating the systems that should be working together. And that's a lot of leadership needs to be in focus to establish something like that. Not just contracts. You have to have somebody who is good on leading and putting together different cultures from different companies, from different perspectives, and make that team working on the same project and working on the same direction. That's the challenge we're up against, not the contract. So the leadership should be much more focused on in our education, the leadership in projects and how to do this. Because I had a mobilization meeting yesterday, and as I said to those, we are in this room, we are 25 or 20 people. In this, we are about 8 to 10 companies with 8 to 10 cultures and 8 to 10 incentives of how to make this project good. The challenge we are up against is to make those cultures and all those companies and all those incentives at least going in the right direction, in the same direction. So in the common year, in the year we are now doing this project, is to try to establish the culture that those 25 people that works in 10 different companies, make an illusion that we are one company. If you say we work in the same company, and then if you start to try to establish some common ground from regarding to that, it's very different. It's very difficult and it's hard. But if you, in the leadership focus and or perspective, try to do and focus on that, I think that's the key moment, the key point in our industry. I see that because people love to be a part of a team, part of a greater goal or a winning culture or all those things. People love that and they want to be a part of that. So why don't the leadership in all the projects establish that? So it's a very easy human goal, I think, but it's very hard to do. Yeah, that was very philosophical.
Yes. No, it was very well put. It was. I really appreciate the way you put it out. To learn, what platforms are you using when you want to learn something about anything? Like when you want to learn something about Raspberry Pi, Python, the Twinmotion, how do you operate? How do you learn it? Just take it and try it, or do you find any valuable resources out there that you can use?
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things. I use LinkedIn because the people are the doers in this industry. So you need to have the people that's enthusiastic, like you, Petru, or I also have Tommy Hagenes in PropTech Bergen. I talk a lot with him because he has a whole other different background and education and focus than me. so we can discuss a lot of things, and I can learn a lot from him, like by listening. And if you have those people to guide you, also YouTube, and of course in the basics. But if you have those that you can call a friend, you also have you always have that question: can you call a friend if you have a problem? Then you go very long. I think you can solve most of the problems, and also you have to have a stubbornness. You have to have something that you. I want to solve this. I want to know this, but I'm not an expert in BIM. I'm not an expert in the twin motion. Revit is what I work in. I'm not an expert in that. I admire people that are like one of those you had in BIM Guru.
Yeah, Gavin Crump. Yeah,
yes,
he's really good at it.
I just salute. I love people that are experts or are very competent in all of those softwares, and but I'm not that. I touch in all of those because I see that how can I use this for something? How can I use this? That's with the Raspberry Pi. That's with the AirThings sensors. That's with all of those. It's trying to make a mix that's puts and puzzle that fits in the whole. Yeah. So yeah, but I start with people on LinkedIn. That's my primary.
When you say LinkedIn, you mean LinkedIn as a platform, not LinkedIn Learning to watch courses. Okay.
No. So it's a hard way to learn because you have to do much and test much. But if you also follow those who are doing the same in different areas, then you learn very much.
Yeah. But I think like persistence, like you said stubbornness. I would call that discipline. And it might come to like maybe you don't do anything, you feel you don't do anything different, but you are different. You have a different background. You came from military, right? You have another mindset, and maybe that's what made you to not accept what is happening. I was not in military, but I was just frustrated, like you also said. Like I was frustrated. I could not find out the answers to questions I had. I could not find. People were not answering me to my questions on LinkedIn, and okay, I'll force you to answer. Calling out in a live in a podcast. Yes. So in that way you cannot run anyway nowhere. Wasn't that smart move?
Yeah.
So, but like I said, time and time again, we need more. Like we can do only so much, and it helps us a lot because we grow learning all this. But it compounds, like it grows exponentially when you get more people involved.
Yes.
So that's why it's very important, and it helps you as well, and it becomes something very special. So this is something that I feel I'm a little bit sad. I can say sad, but it's not something very deep. But I'm a little bit. I'm not very happy about it. Let's just put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get too much interactivity. I would like people. It happened. I got very nice feedback. I got lots of people contacting with me, but I would like more people to open to talk to me, to ask me, to book a meeting just to talk about a topic or something, about a specific episode or something. I think we are generally in our industry. We have been teach to stay in our place, not to be very open. This is something that it's quite, unfortunately, it's something quite popular.
Yeah.
I hope we evolve from this because we cannot go further if we don't begin to talk about things. Like you cannot grow if you don't talk about things. You cannot find a better solution if you don't share it with somebody that can punch some holes through it, or give you a side idea that can power the original idea you had, right? So it's we need to talk. Like I was very passive before as well. I was afraid to. I was just that person, like clicking like button if I saw something, or but like there are many ways to do it much more proactively, right? This is what I'm saying. Like if you like it, tell that person that you like it. Even if you don't feel comfortable to write a comment, it's fine. Just send a private message and tell that. That can mean a lot to that person. I start doing that, and because it's only fair. Like like if I watch a course on YouTube or LinkedIn, whatever, like that person put many hours to do that, and I learned something that I take value from each day at work, right? So it's only fair to, or if I got a good idea from someone, right? So yeah, do that. It's easy to just click like and such, but sometimes it helps much more. You can have a bigger impact, and you can influence those around you as well. You can more people can see and learn more about you as well, right? So yeah,
I agree, because I try to tag much of those sharing is caring, and I think that sharing is that you said about the exponentially function, about when you start sharing things. And I thought you had to have something amazing just to start by sharing. And I learned one example about that. I had one planning meeting where I was doing some lean construction, last planner system methods. And I had not prepared myself very good. So I sat on the night before the meeting, and the contractor and everybody should start it. It was a small project, and we were going to establish the phase of the milestones and the production. So I sat there and I said, okay, I've been doing this a lot. So I sat there, I wrote something on 3 post-it notes. This and this and this and this. And this establish you, so. And then I just, this is a bit embarrassing, I think, doing this and doing it this simple. And I took a picture of it. I took that, and the meeting went splendid. It was fascinating how good it went. And then I took some pictures, and I said, is this something I can share? Is this something that is... And I thought about, if I was on the other side, I haven't seen somebody share these things. I always seen these amazing examples from the big project, and I think, oh, how amazing they are, so the experts and over there, but they're not. And so, but just think, I would have wanted that. So I just pushed it out on LinkedIn, very embarrassed about it, and then that was the one post that hit the most, because it was so pragmatic. It was so to the common, that this is something people relate to. This is what people sit in, and then they see, oh, that was the agenda. Then, maybe I can use that. Is it that? Then I just thought about, stop being embarrassed.
Yeah, that's so true. And the simplest things are most important. Because like you said, you see these presentations like, wow, that's amazing. But let me ask you something. What did you really learn when that presentation is done? You learn nothing. You just, wow, that's awesome. Good, man. But I don't know anything more than I knew before this meeting. That's the problem. Tell me something practical that I can take with me. That's my problem with this. Yeah, that it's good to have these inspirational things as well, of course. But when you have only that, and I think this is a problem here, I don't like to call out people, but or places, but here, if you go to conferences around in Norway, because we are happy, we are glad we have this kind of conferences. But if you go, what kind of presentations do you see? Do you see mostly like, see how good we are, what we did, but not how you can do this.
What I've learned.
Do that, or how you do it. Explain how you do it, how you did it, and maybe then you will inspire someone, right? But it goes back to sharing and working together and such. And it's good to have that as well. Maybe it's a business model. I don't have any idea. But me, personally, I don't get a lot of value from that. So
I agree. In the army, we had something we called, in this sentence, we had a game we called bullshit bingo. And that was on the officer academy, where we had those pitches that we knew was going to be so visionary and so bullshitting. And then we started that meeting, and we sat in a row, and we put up this word, and this word is going to come, like a bingo board. And when that bingo board, when those words came, we have to do, and if you get a bingo, then you have to say bullshit. So, well, in the conferences, you can introduce that bullshit bingo. And if you
yeah, but then they don't have a backup presentation. You might not be able to buy a ticket to the next conference.
You've been banned.
No, but it goes back to like this. We need. It's fine to have presentations. It's okay, but we need to have more opportunities to learn, right? Like making it interactive, making to learn at least one thing. Like someone will learn something, will know something. Like for example, okay, you say you use this software and that software, but show use 5 minutes from that from the presentation for half an hour and show how a very short workflow, how you work. I started with this picture, or I started with this. I imported the model there, and then I connected this Power BI, and I read this dashboard in this way. Put these filters. Like, you understand? You definitely know what I mean.
And also, often it's the easy things we have to communicate, not the hard ones. Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, at Contact, most of the presentations, maybe not all, but most of them are good, are very good quality. Like I really learned something from watching those presentations. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Don't be too nice with the guests.
Start to strict in.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, man. This is amazing. How can someone contact you if they want to ask you something?
Just contact me on LinkedIn. That's where I find. But I love people that sends me texts. But I have that policy that I answer on my time on questions. So if you have a text or send a text or PM or do something like that, I will answer, but I possibly won't answer immediately. So have that if people contact. So I try to do that because I have small children and everything, so I have to balance everything.
Yeah, that is common sense. I guess everybody doesn't expect like if you contact someone you did not meet before and want to ask you something, like it's definitely. So LinkedIn it is.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Sindre, thank you very much for joining me. It was very nice to talk with you.
Keep up the good work, Petru.
Thank you.